Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita about himself, Janma karma cha me divyam yo me vetti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanmam na iti mameti sorjuna. The one who understands the nature of my life and my works as purely divine, tattvataha, understands it in principle, completely, correctly. Such a person, having once given up the body, never comes back again and just reaches me, Mameti. Such a person doesn't have a rebirth, simply merges in me. The one who understands who I truly am, other than the physical appearance, the physical actions, and all other attributes, qualities that we attribute God to. And this is equally true for all avatars. When Sri Krishna speaks, he does not speak just for himself. He is the mouthpiece for the very Brahman who wants to send out a message to the rest of the world. But being of the nature of Nirguna, Nirakara, he assumes Akara, Gunas, in order to convey the message that needs to go to all the people. And therefore, time and again, that Nirguna Brahma assumes a form, a name, and certain qualities and attributes, a place of work, a way of work, a purpose of work, and people around to convey this very highest message of Vedanta, which is that once you know the truth of who Krishna is, you also know the truth of who you are, and you also know the truth of what everything is. And that is the moment there is no more rebirth, there is no more cycle of birth and death, Janma Mrityu, Jara Tapta. None of these exist after that. Then why is it that we cannot understand it, having heard it so many times, having listened to it, having read about it in so many scriptures, in so many different ways? And time and again, masters have come, avatars have come, gurus have come, propagating the same truth again and again and again. Why is it that it does not occur to us? We are not able to absorb it and believe in it. So Ashtavakra says in his Ashtavakra Samhita, Dehabhimana Pashena Chirbaddosi Putraka. In this body consciousness that I am just this body with a name and the form, Pasha it is a noose, it is a bondage in which we are bound, Chirabaddosi, for a long, long time. And Ashtavakra being a young boy and Janaka being an old king, he calls him Putraka, a little child, because though you have great achievements in the world of all kinds, in spirituality you are still a child. And with that idea, he calls him a Putraka, boy, a child. Tells because you are bound in this body consciousness for such a long time, therefore it is difficult for you to believe that you are not the body. And what should you do? Bodho aham jnanakhangena tannishkritya sukhi bhava. He guides him and tells, Bodho aham, who you are, know that. That is like the sword of jnana, wisdom. And with that sword of wisdom, cut it off, this bond, this noose. Cut it off and become happy, sukhi bhava. Become happy, become free. The disease of the world is deha abhimana. The medicine is daiva abhimana. There is no other way it can work. Unless each one of us starts dwelling on this thought that we are divine, assuming a human form and a human name and human activities, there is no escape from this sorrow. There is no escape from this bondage. The only way out is to remember, to believe, and be convinced that we are only divine beings, having appeared as humans conducting ourselves as per the great divine Nataka or the drama, divine play. And beyond that, there is nothing to know, nothing to do. That's all is the truth of all our existence. We are all the actors in the play that is being directed by that very Brahman. And once in a while, the director himself assumes a costume, takes up a role, and comes onto the stage and guides others how to conduct themselves, how to act, how to play their roles well. And that's how that Brahman appears in many, many names, many forms, time and again, according to the need, Desha Kala Paristiti, and guides the people. Somebody has written a question to me. What is the difference between Sai is Brahman and Brahman is Sai? How should I look at it? Sai is Saguna Brahman, and Brahman is, as in its purest sense, is Nirguna Brahman. That's all it is. What is the difference? One is with attributes, Guna. One is without attributes, Nirguna. Are both equal? One is less, one is more? No. The one who knows Brahmavida, Brahmaiva Bhavati. The one who knows Brahman is always Brahman. Even though he may behave like anybody else. Dakshinamurti we heard about. Today we did Dakshinamurti Homa. He is also Brahman. Sarvam Kalvidam Brahman. Everything is Brahman. This conviction is for those who are constantly dwelling on this thought. We might have forgotten, but it's easy to remember because that is what we truly are. And that is the call of all the Upanishads. That is the end of all the sorrows of the world. All these sorrows are imaginary. When the students come up to the podium and they speak about their experiences, at least they have a goal in front of them. They know where they are heading and where they need to reach. Some of them said earlier, we thought doing seva and seva and seva day and night, that's good enough. Rest will be taken care of. Somebody said, we are all your devotees. We have prayed to you. We have worshipped you day in, day out. Therefore, you always said, you are my responsibility. I will give you moksha at the end. Then why all these Upanishad classes? We are anyway doing seva to you. We are anyway doing your bhajana, kirtana, nagar sankirtana and all the worships. Beyond that also you want us to study all these and understand. Is it necessary? You said you will take care of it. Somebody wrote a question to me from somewhere abroad. While in the other form you always said, no, do seva, naam manme ram, atme kam, enough, rest I'll take care. And now you are saying that you do, alongside you have to also remember who you are continuously. What is this new twist in the tale? I said, I will take care of you and I will grant you liberation. This is how I will grant you liberation. By constantly reminding of you who you are. But to listen to me, to understand this great truth, you need to have a purified mind. And that purity of mind does not come without selfless service. The focus, the concentration of mind to listen to such talks and discourses and be able to contemplate on it does not come without worship or devotion to God. Then you become eligible to understand these great truths. And that is when these truths are being told to you. Shankaracharya beautifully encapsulates the path of karma, bhakti and jnana when he says, Chittasya shuddhaye karmana. Actions are only to purify one's mind. Ekagriyartham upasana, he says, for the concentration of mind to keep it steady, still we need to do meditation, upasana or worships, bhakti. But ultimately, to know the truth, to understand Brahman, the only thing that helps you is Vedanta. If you want moksha, which is moha kshaya, to get out of this bondage, of thinking of the body and the mind, the only way out of it is Vedanta. To understand that you are that Tattvamasi. There is no other way to escape this. Ramana Maharshi would put it in quite a, what do you say, a funny mode or a very jovially, or very, very sharp also. Some devotee went and asked Sri Ramana Maharshi, I am a great devotee of Lord Vishnu. So, I want to know from you, after dying, will I go to Vaikunta? And Sri Ramana Maharshi said, of course you will go to Vaikunta. You are a great devotee. All life you have been chanting Vishnu Sahasranama and so many names and you worshipped him in so many ways. He said, when I go to Vaikunta, will I have darshan of Mahavishnu? And Sri Ramana said, of course you can have darshan of Mahavishnu. He got very happy. Then he asked, after having darshan of Mahavishnu, will he talk to me? And then he said, yes, he will also talk to you. You are such a great devotee after all. If not you, who else? Then he said, what will he talk to me? What will he tell me? And Sri Ramana Maharshi said, he will tell you, find out who are you. This is what he will tell you at the end. So that is what is mokshartam Brahma Vidya. For nothing else. Iti Vedanta Dindima. For the sake of liberation, you have to ultimately study these scriptures, the idea of Upanishads, which simply, straight, it tells you that you are that. You may think whatever you are. You may think, I am no good, I cannot walk on this path, this is not for me. I am very happy doing bhajans. All right, do bhajans, that is not a problem. That is also good. In that bhakti also there is ananda. But ultimately what will it do? It will remove all your impurities. It will help your mind to remain detached, calm, desirelessness as we discussed yesterday. And that is the eligibility to even understand one word of Upanishad. Then only you are able to appreciate what Upanishads are saying, and then alone you are able to walk on this path and reach the goal. Many interns have gone through this process. When they came, it was all bhakti. Then it became karma, all kinds of activities, seva activities in their campuses. And after 3 years of having put them through seva, and previously at least 5 years or 4 years of putting them through the bhakti marga, finally we are teaching them the Vedanta. And I told them this could not have been done earlier. Had it been spoken about 5 years ago, you wouldn't have understood anything of it. Because it is not that Swami is not speaking. Swami has been speaking Vedanta from the very day one. Nothing else other than Vedanta. But put in different ways, in different stories and parables and things like that. But all the time you should see the sara of all that has been spoken is only Vedanta. You are that. But how many people would pay attention to what he says? Because we are not ready. So our readiness comes from seva. So you cannot discard seva. You cannot think of it as anything lesser or lower. Similarly, you cannot do away with bhakti. That will keep your mind calm. That will keep your mind steady. But at the end, transcending the mind altogether will happen only through Vedanta and nothing else. Therefore, these Upanishads. And Shruti Mata, as he said, the mother is worshipped. These Upanishads are worshipped as mother. How beautiful. Because only a mother can be so compassionate to give away such wisdom so freely, so unconditionally, so easily. Only mother would do that without any calculations, judgments. And therefore, all the Vedas are considered Shruti Mata. And today we worshipped Mother Gayatri in the morning Homa. Gayatri is Chandasam Mata, they call. Chanda means also a meter, but also it means all the verses of the Vedas are Chandas. And she is the mother of all of them. Therefore, worshipping Gayatri has this benefit of knowing the truth of who we truly are. And you say, Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. Let our intellect be purified. Let our intellect become effulgent is what is the prayer of Gayatri mantra. Bhargo devasya dhimahi dhiyo yonah prachodaya. You, the effulgent one, symbolically the sun, Savita. But the inner sun, the Atman, that the girl said, na tatra suryo bhati, na chandra tarakam. The sun does not shine there, nor the moon, nor the ima vidyuto kutoyam agnihi, neither the lightning nor the fire. Then where does this light come from? It says, tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam, tasya bhasa sarvam idam vidbhati. When it shines, everything else shines. As it shines, so everything shines. The quality of the shine, the quality of the effulgence is derived from that of the Atman. That is Brahman. And that is the Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. That effulgence of Brahman, of knowledge, she bestows upon us. Who? Chandasam Mata. How? Through the Chandas, through the Vedas. Veda Mata she is called. And morning then they were explaining, they said that we have to give us the intelligence, make it shiny, make it effulgent, make it pure. I said, what does that mean, that pure intelligent? What is that? That is again Upanishad Vakya, Prajnanam Brahma. At the end of it, that is what it is. That ultimate understanding that knowledge is Brahman, that everything is one and no other. There is no second over here. Second is an illusion. Object and the reflection. Sound and the resound. Action and the reaction. Reaction, resound, reflection are all illusions. The truth is the object, the original sound. And that one only shines in all. As it shines, everything else shines. That is the Upanishad Vakya. The more and more we dwell on this thought, on a daily basis, as you're walking, talking, your breath keeps telling you almost on average 21,600 times, so hum, I am that, I am that, I am that. But we don't pay attention. Therefore we miss. Like a teacher may be a very good teacher, but after having had a sumptuous morning breakfast, first hour we all know what happens. Annanandam to Brahmanandam. Then we miss out what the teacher is saying. We don't understand. And when we wake up, the lecture is over and we have understood here and there, and we don't make anything out of it. So attention is very, very important, and that happens when our minds are focused. For a focus of mind, ekagriyartham upasana, all the bhakti, all these worships, rituals, these are all ways to keep our mind steady. And before that, even to keep the mind steady, it also has to be pure. And through seva, karma. Karma means not just the actions that we do. That which binds, that is not the action. Karma nibandhuini manushya loke. That which binds us to the world are not the right actions. The right actions are those which help us liberate ourselves from the bondage. So selfless actions are right actions. Where there is no kartatva bhava, there is no bhoktritva bhava. Ashtavakra says, na kartasi na bhoktasi, aham evasi sarvada. Neither you are the doer nor you are the enjoyer. You are yourself. Aham eva. Brahmananda Vali. Aham eva aham avyayaha. What is your definition? Who are you? I am I. Aham eva aham. I am I. Are you a man? No, I am I. I is a man. I is a woman. I is divine. I is devil. No, I is I. It has no attributes whatsoever. After that only I am man, I am woman, I am king, I am poor, I am intelligent. All these are the attributes superimposed on that. In our Vedanta, the example of rope and the snake. It is superimposed. Rajju Sarpaha, they say call it. The rope looks like a snake in the dark. Snake does not exist. Rope alone exists. Likewise, these I am man, woman, rich, poor, good, bad, devotee, atheist, all these are superimpositions on that I alone. And I alone is the truth, aham. And that is the idea of Vedanta. And who cannot understand, tell me, what is the simplest explanation, the simplest philosophy in the world according to me? You cannot deny your existence. Therefore, you cannot deny Vedanta. Vedanta is all about you. It's about I. Somewhere I heard, now we have a theory called God of gaps. It means whatever you cannot explain through science, we say we attribute it to God. See, that is why we say God exists. Why did this happen to me? Science cannot prove it, therefore God exists. The moment science proves it, that gap is filled by science and God is out. So we have been dealing with God of gaps, they say. And gap is becoming narrower and narrower because science comes up with some explanation or the other for everything. But God, which is dependent on these kind of explanation phase and faith, which is the general practice religion, is very, very fragile. However, Vedanta, which is based on you and you alone, you are the protagonist, you are the hero of the Vedanta. There's nobody else other than you. It's about you. Why should it not interest you? And how can you deny you? Vedanta is I is Vedanta. If I were to further simplify, what is Vedanta? I is Vedanta. I exists. So what is I? You are that I. You start speaking about yourself, you start with I am so and so. I cannot be removed. If you say am good, am bad, nobody will understand. Who? I. I is Vedanta. But what is this I has to be understood. Whom are you pointing this I to? Is it the body that you discuss? Is it the mind that you think of? No. There is beyond that, that is Atman, that is Brahman, and that Ekatma Sarva Bhutantaratma. It is one only which is looking as like many. And so Sai is Brahman? Yes. Brahman is Sai? Yes. Are you Brahman? Yes. So therefore are you Sai? Yes. And therefore Sai would say, you and I are one. Not because in the body we are one, not because in the mind or thinking we are one. We are one because we are made of the same thing. That is why everything is Brahman. So don't even get into these narrow-minded arguments. My God, your God, my avatar, your avatar, this form, that form, this name, that name. Chant this name, you will attain moksha. That name, no, that is not possible to attain moksha. That is not true. All these narrow-mindednesses come from the people who have got stuck in the duality. It's very enjoyable. Duality is enjoyable, it's easy, but that's not the ultimate. It is a stepping stone. So Advaita, Vishishtadvaita and Dvaita. Dvaita, Vishishtadvaita are easy to understand, easy to practice, and sometimes very enjoyable. Some of them, devotees heard all my discourses in the recent time. They said there is some discomfort, and Swami, now that you tell us so bluntly that we have not progressed at all, seems like. Is it so? Is it so bad? I said, no, it is not at all. It is just that you have been playing around too long with dolls and forms and names. You grow up, you have to grow up beyond that. When Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was a great devotee, Dvaita Bhakti is Ramakrishna's Bhakti, everybody knows. At the same time, he was actually an Advaitin. So how did he find the common ground between Dvaita and Advaita? Because he saw both as one. The shadow is the same as the object. The shadow is because of the object. That is how he thought. So when Totapuri came and taught him Vedanta and tried to make him meditate on the Brahman and told enough of this idol worship and enough of this Dvaita Bhakti, this is not ultimate, let us go. So what did Ramakrishna Paramahamsa do? He meditated and he did it better than Totapuri. Totapuri said, 40 years I have been trying this, but I have not been able to attain because his mind, Ramakrishna's, Paramahamsa's mind was purified because of bhakti. He's selfless. He had no desires of his own. All these are the prerequisites to even step into the experience of that Brahman. And when he meditated, immediately he lost himself in that Brahma Bhava. And later Totapuri had to come and fall at Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's feet saying that you are superior to me because you have, though you worship a form, yet the formless aspect has come to you so easily. How is it? Then he says, the snake that is coiled and the snake that is crawling, both are snakes only. This is the example Ramakrishna Paramahamsa gives. The mother, that Brahman in the mother, in the form, and the Brahman which is formless, chara, in everything, chara, that and this are same. It's your defect in the vision. You understand it differently. For me, both are same. And therefore, bhakti is not at loggerheads with Vedanta. Or Vedanta is not in opposition to bhakti. In fact, bhakti will make Vedanta easier for you. Provided you develop some understanding of this, that form and no form, both are same, one and the same. So don't get attached to too much form. I always keep telling and keep warning everybody. One form you got attached to, now you're getting attached to another form. It's like trying to remove one thorn to the other thorn, and both the thorns are gone inside the foot now. So you have double problem now. So remember, it's enjoyable. The world has been created by God to enjoy His glory in everything. I tell, look at leaves in the garden. One leaf is not similar to the other. All the leaves in the world are different from each other. Look at the creativity of Brahman. Enjoy it. Look at the birds of so many plumes. They have so many sounds they make. They eat different berries. They have different ways. Enjoy it. Look at the nature. And enjoy the creativity, the mastermind that Brahman has. Enjoy everything, the variety of life, the variety of people, different cultures, different thoughts, philosophies. Everything is Brahman only. The one who sees that ekatvam anupashyatah, ko moha, kashoka, where is any attachment for such a person? How can you get even attached to a form or a name? So I always keep telling you, I am a tough master. I will not allow you to sit for too long comfortably. And you just think you have reached, I will tell you there is some more to go. And you have to get up and walk. Uttishtata, jagrata, prapyavaran nibodata. Walk, walk, walk. Till you reach, you have to walk. It's very easy to settle down from one form into the other form. Basically, you have not gone too far. But that is not the way. So everything has its own role, and I already told in the beginning when I started, see, now you're graduating, you have to get into the university. University means universality, unity. That is where you have to enter now. And it means what? It means you have to give up your old syllabus and old books and old costumes, whatever, school dress and other things, and now move on into the university level. You cannot stay there for too long. It may be easier, it is something that you're used to, you're comfortable with, but you have to get out of that comfort zone. So one side you worship. I see every day these mothers, so beautiful form. They appear every day when we perform homas. They appear in the fire to receive the offerings that are made. I see them all in their majestic, glorious, shining, effulgent forms, be it Dakshinamurti, be it Gayatri Mata, be it Lalita Parameshwari, be it Rudra. They all come, they all have some existence, definitely. But at the end of it, I peer through all of them and see that how this Brahman only is playing so many roles. How wonderful. He becomes Rudram on one day, another day, same Brahman becomes the Lalita Parameshwari, third day, same Brahman becomes Dakshinamurti, and the very next moment, he alone, or it alone, or that alone becomes Mother Gayatri. And so many roles that Brahman plays. How wonderful is this whole creation? How wonderful is this whole system that has been designed so perfectly by Brahman? And I enjoy that. He is there in the sorrow, he is also in the joy. He is there in the success, also in the failure. He is there in the beauty and also in the grossest, ugliest things. He is there in the most elite and also the least. He is there in everything and everywhere. What a wonderful feeling it is to even just think about it. Imagine an experience of it. Just thinking itself gives you so much of joy. So develop that kind of a feeling. Forms and names will come and go. And we cannot, as I said, stand holding Father's hand for too long. We have to grow up and stand on our own. When you're small, you need a hold. When you're a baby, mother will give hand to and take you along. After some time, imagine if now at this age, if your father holds your hand, you will tell your father, don't hold my hand. Am I a kid anymore? What will others think of me? Mother says a thing, don't. Why? Because you've grown up. Now you realize you are that. So you don't need any forms and names. Yet, would you discard your mother and father because they are not useful to you? No, you will still worship them because you are because they were. And therefore, there is no problem with Saguna and Nirguna. Don't get into this debate. Most of the people know Mahaswami is Sarva Devata Atita Swarupa ani Swami cheptaru. He said what? I am not Sarva Devata Swarupa. Sarva Devata means again you are confining me to different forms only. I am Sarva Devata Atita Swarupa. In fact, there is no Swarupa over there, but it is a way to say things. I am beyond even the names and forms. That is the ultimate. So you have to focus on this one thought, that beyond names and forms lies the truth. At the same time, names or forms are not untruth. They are also truth. But the real truth is that which does not have any name and form. That is the ultimate experience. Some children also wrote a question that, why is that I putting so much of effort and still Brahman is not revealing to me? I said the day before yesterday, I was telling, now Prashantamanasopi, Shankaracharya wants, even the person who has this desire to find Brahman will not find Brahman, he says. See how tricky it is. I have to realize Brahman. Therefore I must do this, I do that. That idea that I have to realize Brahman itself will not allow you to realize. I am Brahman will help you to realize. Nothing else. And when will you realize? At the right time. When the time is right, when the pot is wet, clay is wet, you cannot pour water and it will break. When it is baked, dried, it has been toughened, then you pour water, it will carry the water in itself. Likewise, this realization, this understanding is there in all. When Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa touched Vivekananda, was Naren then, he fell into some kind of a state of delirium kind. He couldn't understand what's going on. He couldn't make out one thing from the other. Everything seemed like liquid, fluid around him. So much so that he went and banged his head on the grill, it seems, to understand whether his head is real, grill is real, or it's all just imagination. 3 days he couldn't eat anything. He couldn't make out whether he's eaten sour or bitter or salty or spicy. Mother got worried, what's wrong with him? Because he was not ready for it. Therefore, readiness is through karma, bhakti, and study of Vedanta. At the end of it, what will happen? Vastu siddhi vicharena na kinchita karma kotibhi. Though you have done all the works, at the end of the works, it doesn't guarantee you anything other than purity. But that purity should lead you to divinity. That requires a little bit of vichara, atma vichara. This is what Ramana Maharshi would say. Who am I? Who am I? Ask yourself. Koham, koham. Who am I? Who am I? Am I the body? But I have had many bodies. My body was small, then big, now old. Tomorrow it may not be there. Will I not be there? Will the body? Is it my mind? Am I happy one day, sad another day? So which is me of these? That is how you have to go on questioning, and Vedanta helps you to find that out. You may keep dwelling on these thoughts. Vastu siddhi vicharena. Keep between vichara and vastu siddhi. The realization will happen at its own time. It cannot be done. It will happen. When things are right, when you are ready, it will happen. So don't lose patience and don't give up efforts. Why not? Why not? Am I not good enough? Am I not eligible? All these are wrong thinking. Right thinking is, I have to put my effort, whatever effort is required, to continuously remember who I am. By continuously remembering that and accordingly acting in my daily life, one day that realization will happen. It will become a natural way of living. Till then I must continue as I am going on. So don't lose your patience. These are 1 or 2 questions. Since I told yesterday, don't keep undigested questions in your stomach. So everybody asked, some of these letters were there. So I thought I will answer these questions. You can ask any other questions too, as long as it is helpful for everyone. That helps all people to benefit from it.